Hello, everybody. This deserves to be honestly shamed on an international scale in a video. If you want to see the epitome of true American traffic engineering, you're definitely going to want to watch this video. This intersection is in East Beaverton, and it is the horror show, and if you're local, you already know what I'm talking about, the horror show that is the intersection slash shins, plural, of Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, also known as Farmington Road, Shoals Ferry Road, Olson Road, and Dogwood. But don't worry, it gets a little more complicated because Dogwood is also technically two different roads, and one of them creates its own unique intersection. And of course, there's a billion and one different businesses in a strip mall format, all throughout all these corners and areas and along these roadways. Try to make it as nice looking as possible, but it doesn't change the fact that this is absolutely a horror show. I didn't even know exactly what was going on at this crosswalk. I didn't even know you could actually cross here, even though I've driven over this a few times. I'm like, what is the point of this? I mean, Jesus Christ. I think, yeah. This is ridiculous. Oh God. Yeah. I went up this way. I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure this is all I saw was literally this little L to go there onto Beaverton Hillsdale. There's nothing to go onto Shoals Ferry here. Shoals Ferry doesn't even have a sidewalk until up there. So you'd have to walk along that. And then you just have this tiny little island I'm on. Right? Like, start from where I'm standing, right? So here's the crosswalk where I just crossed. This tiny little island. And that's all you get. I hate American city planning so much. Like, this is people who are paid like $100,000+ plus probably bonuses per year to plan this kind of stuff out. This is technically, apparently, sort of, yeah, this is technically intended as a sidewalk because there's no cross points obviously here. It's just literally, this is apparently considered a sidewalk. It's not even a hit, it's a button. What you're looking at here, turn too far, this is technically Shoals Ferry. As you can see, it's 210. It's actually a state highway. And here, a little high up, is obviously Beaverton Hillsdale, also known as Farmington. To me, it's Farmington because I'm further west, obviously. And then right over here, you have Olson, which that's technically Olson. And you have this Dogwood here, which technically is there, I think. It's weird. Yeah. Where the transit van is. Poor transit. That's technically a continuation of this. God. Also, I didn't know there's such a thing as dermatology for animals. Seems so, well, hipster, not gonna lie. Oh, good God. Dermatology for your dog. I hate everything about this. Apparently it's legal to turn there while you have a crosswalk signal. That seems really fucking safe. That's disconcerting. I didn't know that was a thing. I hate everything about this. But yeah, this is this is terrible. If you can't tell why. And all of this, all these businesses, right? All these driveways, these all carry on way down this way, especially on Beaverton Hillsdale. They carry on down here on Shoals for quite a ways. They carry on obviously down Dogwood, which I don't think continues that far. But mainly it's all along Beaverton Hillsdale. And it's absolutely horrible. Because that just makes everything more dangerous and a lot worse. Welcome to American City Planning and Traffic Planning 101. There's your bus stop. Seems safe. Including that other bus stop just around the corner over there that I was walked in front of. You saw. That also was actually in even a more dangerous and precarious position. Now imagine if there's snow or ice on the ground and it has this big deep slant because it's settled. Oh, that's gonna be a fun time, especially when you're groggy in the morning or at night. Sheesh. Like, how bad can it really be, right? I just showed you the actual intersection a little bit back to the west from it and how bad it is, like how bad it truly is. It might be one of the worst arranged and planned traffic systems and intersections in the country. It is absolutely a clusterfuck, especially with all those drives in and out of businesses and offices and even apartments and other things like that. Crappy excuses for sidewalks and crosswalks, and then the bus stops are in even worse positions. So can it really get any worse? It abso-freaking-lutely can. Beaverton Hillsdale / Farmington, in downtown Beaverton, they come together almost like to where they almost merge. They're so close together. They're about equivalent of a block, half a block apart at their closest in downtown Beaverton. And in between them is also a very active cargo railway track. They get really close together. I mean, terribly close. So it gets really nasty, really bad, really fast. And it sucks that that's the case, because there could be so much better done. And that could also be fixed if people were willing to put their hard-earned tax money into that instead of funding wars and stupid crap like that, or if they made them actually put it into things we need, including things that mainly be in the short term don't seem like they're much of a fix and they seem like a waste of money, but in the long term would actually benefit everybody equally, if not substantially more than anything else we could do with even transit-oriented developments and things like that. Now, you might be missing an extra detail that's really important to think about when it comes down to the logistics of transit and city planning and thus traffic planning, because they are technically one and the same in my mind. People, pedestrians mainly, along with bicyclists, and even motorists, all three of us will all equally choose to use parking lots. So these little driveways into and through and around businesses to cut across and through and around traffic in these intersections are because they are shortcuts, like I said, for all three sets of people. People cut through these shortcuts, these drive-throughs of these parking lots all the time. Pedestrians, motorists, so car drivers, and obviously also transit users. I'm actually all three. First-hand, second-hand, third-hand experience, doesn't matter, third person or whatever, you see this all the time. And it's for obvious reasons. It's because we all have the same logic and reasoning to do it. We don't want to get stuck in a traffic jam or stuck at all these red lights and potentially get involved in an accident at unsafe intersections.
The intersection I just walked across is actually the single deadliest intersection and part of the roadways system, or any portion of our roadways here in the state of Oregon. It is by far the deadliest and the most dangerous year round. I'm 30 and a half, and longer than that, this has been the deadliest intersection in the state and the deadliest part of the road system in the entire state of Oregon. And for good reason. I'm sure I just showed you guys and proved to you exactly why that is without even having to necessarily say anything. And so when you have the shortcuts, and thus bundled with some impatience, that doesn't help safety either. But it also proves to you the more people are using these kinds of drive-throughs to both as pedestrians, transit users, and bicyclists and motorists, everybody basically, every mode of transit uses it to cut through as shortcuts to get around these accidents and traffic jams. That should tell you something. And it is an indicator. It indicates that you have a major clusterfuck of a problem and a major logistical nightmare going on with your intersection. And it proves that you definitely need to spend the money to rip it all up and completely reform it so that now it makes sense. That intersection, if you didn't notice, doesn't make sense because it's not technically one intersection, it's technically two intersections. You could even argue it's four intersections all in one. Because Olson itself makes that weird little extra cut across Beaverton Hillsdale for that one vehicle long little piece of roadway or intersection with Shoals Ferry. And that technically means there is up to four intersections in one there, because Dogwood on the south side is technically its own intersection. There's an intersection in the middle of an intersection, and in order to end your intersection, they added another intersection.
There is another way that this intersection mess could get so much worse. The city of Portland selling the Red Tail Golf Course to the PDX Diamond Project. If the PDX Diamond Project gets their way, and the city of Portland does in fact sell them the property that is where the public golf course, the Red Tail Golf Course, happens to be, which is between Shoals Ferry and Olson and Hall Boulevard. Roads sound familiar, don't they? Oh, right. You're already getting the picture then, aren't you? Yeah. Where do you think most people, especially from Portland proper and coming from Portland, to watch the new Portland MLB club play, if they get their way down there, where do you think they're all going to be coming from? And what roads do you think they're going to use? Sure, a handful of them are definitely going to be using I-5 down to, say, Barber Boulevard, which is just 99W, or, 217. But there's going to be a lot of others. In fact, I argue the majority are probably going to be using Beaverton Hillsdale to get to Olson or, of course, to Shoals Ferry. And Garden Home Road, guess what? Yup, it directly crosses and connects with Shoals Ferry and Olson, not too far south of here. You getting the idea now? Yeah, it's a problem. That would cause an infinitely worse influx of traffic and jams and problems and accidents and everything else, is a bunch of people coming in, including from out of state, coming in rental cars or whatever else, trying to get to a game. Or for that matter, any other entertainment destinations that might actually be placed on that property, since they want to turn it into also a entertainment destination district, not otherwise. Oh, and you know how I said 217 and I-5? Take a look on Google Earth or Google Maps if you're unfamiliar with the area, and just kind of educate yourself on that. Even though OpenStreetMaps, that works. Just, yeah, you'll probably get the idea pretty quickly. There's a weird shaped triangle that happens, and it squeezes in down there. So if everybody's going equally down all these different ways, or even more dominantly one way, say Beaverton Hillsdale, which I believe would happen, they're all still converging on the same spot. And those same spots technically all kind of converge anyway because of that weird triangle thing that's happening. It's an absolute horror show. So if they get their way, which, by the way, this video talks in depth about. It's a great urbanism video. It actually is worth mentioning here because it's now associated with this intersection. Because in that video, I referenced this intersection, and now I can reference it back for the obvious reasons. You will actually be able to really get a great education on what makes this intersection so bad, and even worse when it comes to if, God forbid, PDX Diamond Project actually gets sold that property south on Shoals Ferry and Olson. It's not a good thing. So that is another way it can get absolutely worse than it already is. There's a second way, or technically a third way. It can get even worse than it already is. And that is, ironically, densifying, which definitely needs to happen, especially right here. You're pretty much on the apex of where Beaverton and Portland city boundaries meet. You're still really close to I-5, but also really close to 217. You're like kind of right in between. You're also really fucking close to 26, actually. So you're literally right next to 3 freeways. You're right smack in the middle. It could not be the more perfect spot for a much higher density to go in, right, especially in this much of a cluster of intersections of major thoroughfares. Olson's a major thoroughfare. Shoals Ferry is a major thoroughfare. So is Beaverton Hillsdale. Why you already made it a nexus for commercial, so why not make it into a residential, mixed use gathering space with a much higher density? It just makes perfect sense. However, once again, that's also going to make it much worse, this intersection. Its safety is going to plummet even further. It's going to be even worse in terms of congestion, and the rate of accidents is going to skyrocket. There's going to be way worse injuries, way more deaths. So there's going to be a lot of problems if you leave the intersection as it is. That is all the more reason, therefore, to reference to what I said earlier in this video, while I was actually out there sitting in my car talking to you. And that is, of course, that what has to happen first, before you densify, is to fix it. And the only possible way you can fix this kind of a mess is if you completely tear everything up, not just the intersections itself, but you tear up for like at least a quarter mile in every direction, if not actually half mile to even a mile back on these major thoroughfares specifically. And you detach, at least motor vehicle wise, you detach dogwood both ends from each other. Or you could put it under a tunnel, an underpass, or you could put it on an overpass. Either way, that's what has to happen. You have to completely reform and reroute the entire intersection to finally make sense. Because in its current state, it doesn't make sense, and it never has made sense. Now, what I do want to state, however, is also an important little detail, and that is the history of Oregon's roads, and especially up here in the Portland metropolitan area. Historically, including why this intersection came to be as it is because of laziness throughout history of traffic engineering and, of course, city and traffic planning. Because the history of our area is mainly using Native American trails and a little bit later wagon trails. Most roadways, and especially in this exact spot, were all originally Native American trails. Some of them turned into homestead/farmstead trails, so wagon trails, and eventually they just paved them over when the automobile became a big thing, and then they just kept expanding them as the population boomed. That's therefore the laziness in it. They didn't think, oh, we probably should reform this whole area before we really develop along it and in it, and just pretty much entrap. They literally painted themselves into a corner with their laziness. They're just like, nah, it'll be fine. Well, it wasn't fine, and it's worse than ever. So that's the history of that. Just figured to give you that little bit of extra context for the history of how we ended up with the roadways as we did around here. I cannot explain the naming conventions, though, of changing a street name, a road name, even a major thoroughfare name, every few blocks to every 2 to 4 miles. And you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. It is rampant all over the place. It's one of the most irritating things, both to locals and also people who are from out of state that come through here. Anyway, that'll be it. So thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more of my content, whether it's commentaries on Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it's commentaries on urbanism and transit design, whether it's commentaries on literally anything else, make sure you subscribe, because all of those are increasing in frequency slowly over time, because they're kind of becoming a bit of my focus. That said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you around. Until then, don't get hit by a truck or an arrogant California driver. Okay. Cute. Cute. Good evening, my little friend. Cute.
I love rodents so much, man. They're so freaking cute. Look at you. How could people not like you guys? You're nuts and you're cute. Instability and adorable? I mean, come on. What's better? Name a better combination.